The paintwork is very soft, which is why it quickly acquires small scratches and chips. On Russian-assembled cars, on the thresholds, in the rear door openings and arches, over the years, the paint may begin to wrinkle and peel off in pieces. External body panels are made of a fairly thin metal, which is why dents are inevitable when a pebble hits. There are no particular complaints about the corrosion resistance of iron yet, but in the case of poor quality body repairs, the appearance of rust is inevitable. Most often, body panels begin to rust from the inside. The body is galvanized only on the outside, which is why the owners do not always have time to fix the problem in a timely manner. The metal rots to holes. When examining the Ford Fiesta 6 for corrosion, it is worth carefully inspecting the area around the lower fastenings of the front wings of the thresholds, the edges of the thresholds, and the rear arches. It is also worth looking under the end cap of the front door, located above the top hinge. If the car lies on the street, corrosion can also be found on the roof, under plastic lining relevant for hatchbacks. The culprit of this trouble is a low-quality factory seam sealant, which over the years dries up and allows moisture to pass through. For the same reason, moisture can accumulate in the trunk niches. When inspecting the bottom of the car, special attention should be paid to the seams of the body cups, the niche of the fuel tank, the brackets, the rear spar vent, and the rear of the arch. They rust when dirt accumulates. You should also check the condition of the VIN number located under the front passenger seat, rusting. Of the less significant shortcomings, the fragility of the headlight support latches is noted, which are easily damaged when replacing the light bulb. If a damaged mount is not replaced, it will vibrate while driving and may damage the paint on the fender and bumper. There are also complaints about the strength of the fastening of regular mudguards and the hook plug in the rear bumper. Drivers also complain about the light weight of the doors, because of which the locks work with an unpleasant sound. In sedans over time, the trunk lid seal breaks and begins to leak moisture. Ford Fiesta 6 is available for purchase with gasoline engines of the Sigma family, 1.25 FUJA, 1.4 FXJA, and 1.6 FYDA. A 3-cylinder turbo engine of the EcoBoost series, M1G, and diesel ICEs 1.4 and 1.6. The power units of the Sigma family are quite reliable. The resource is about 250,000 kilometers, but they do not like bad fuel. Candles, coils, and fuel injectors quickly become unusable. Another weak point is the fuel pump filter. It clogs quickly, the unsatisfactory condition of which leads to rapid wear of the pump. The cooling system can also cause a lot of problems. So, for example, after 5 years of operation, rubber pipes begin to break down. They let antifreeze through. The quick-release fasteners of the pipes turn sour, and the thermostat housing is destroyed. Not happy with the resource and the thermostat. After 150,000 kilometers of run, an oil burner appears, up to 300 grams per 1,000 kilometers. The reason is in the piston rings. In the early stages, it is possible to cope with the disease by using a more viscous oil or by decoking the piston. For a 1.6 engine, while saving on maintenance and lubricant quality, phase regulators installed in the camshaft drive can deliver problems to 100,000 kilometers of run. In the timing drive of these motors, a belt is installed, which, according to the regulations, must be changed every 120,000 kilometers, but it is not uncommon for it to wear out earlier. It breaks. Since hydraulic compensators are not provided for these units, once every 90, 100,000 kilometers, the thermal clearances of the valves should be adjusted. For cars with high mileage, you need to be prepared for the vagaries of the dampers for changing the geometry of the intake, wedge, and the ventilation system. The intake manifold and cylinder head cover are made of plastic and can deform when overheated. Oil seals and gaskets do not tolerate high temperatures. On pre-styling cars, you need to monitor the phase shifter control valve on the exhaust camshaft, located at the top of the valve cover, since if it breaks down, the internal combustion engine may be left without oil leaks. In the turbocharged version 1.6 installed in the Fiesta SD, a weak power system is added to the above troubles. In addition, even at low mileage, such troubles as cranking of the liners, burnout of the pistons, and damage to the connecting rods are not uncommon. But in the turbocharged engine of the EcoBoost series, the piston group is better adapted to the loads, but the TUM cannot be called reliable. Most often, the culprit of an expensive repair is the timing belt, which is in an oil bath. The declared resource of the belt is 240,000 kilometers, but in reality, it begins to crumble at a range of 140,000–160,000 kilometers. Another disadvantage is the high cost of maintaining the mechanism. Replacing the belt, front cover seals, bolts, and timing stars will cost at least $800. If the belt is not replaced in a timely manner, wear products will quickly clog the oil receiver of the motor, followed by oil starvation of the internal combustion engine and accelerated wear of its parts. The repair of the turbine is also expensive, in which, after 100,000 kilometers of run, a hole under the bypass valve shaft is broken. Closer to 150,000 kilometers, owners have to change the injection pump pushers and high-pressure pipes. Like the ICE of the older series, the pipes of the cooling system are not reliable. They crack after 5 years of operation. A piston turbo engine rarely runs more than 250,000 kilometers. Diesel engines installed on the Ford Fiesta 6 have French roots. Developed by the PSA concern, DLD 415, DV4TD, Duratorque UGJC, DV5TED4, DLD 416, DV6TED4. You should not expect any special problems from these engines, since French diesel engines are famous for their reliability and the absence of serious mechanical problems. Of the minuses, one can single out the excessive capriciousness of the fuel equipment, especially for a 1.5-liter unit, and the high cost of repairs. In a stock engine, a turbine, a VKG membrane, and a crankshaft damper pulley differ in a modest resource. At the Duratorque motor, the USR valve cokes very quickly, which significantly reduces traction. You have to clean it every 30–50,000 kilometers. The particulate filter is also prone to pollution, requires replacement after 100,000 kilometers. Another weak point is the turbine, in which, with prolonged movement at high speeds, the output of the turbine impeller bushings increases. In addition, this unit is poorly adapted for winter operation. At the most powerful engine, DLD 416, the turbocharger lubrication system most often fails. Sediment forms in the oil supply line. There are two solutions to the problem: clean the oil channel and its filter at each maintenance, or change the pipeline every 50–60,000 kilometers. If this is not done, you cannot count on a long turbine life. Another element is the tendency of the piston and oil receiver of the oil pump to coking. On cars of the first years of production, there are engines with poor quality camshafts. Cams wear out. The resource of piston diesel engines with proper maintenance is 350,000 kilometers. Transmission for the Ford Fiesta 6. 3 types of gearboxes were offered: IB5 mechanics, 4F27E automatic and power shift Getrag 6 DCT 250 robot. The manual transmission is generally good, but not designed for aggressive driving style. So, for example, if the owner often arranges races at traffic lights already by 150,000 kilometers, it may be necessary to replace bearings and shafts, gears, and a differential, the wedge of which is fraught with damage to the housing. When choosing a car on the secondary, be sure to listen to the box for extraneous noise. It is advisable to carry out the procedure on a lift. Of the minor troubles, the unreliability of the right drive oil seal, flowing, is noted. After 100,000 kilometers of run, the softness of switching an unheated box decreases. This ailment is treated by washing the fluoroplastic hinges of the balancer of the gear shift mechanism, located on the gearbox. With careful handling and periodic relubrication, every 60,000 kilometers, the box can last up to 400,000 kilometers. A good margin of safety and a 4-speed automatic 4F27E. The first transmission failures are somehow connected with the back cover. Wear on the C on the cover caliper leads to a decrease in oil pressure. Other weak points include not very successful friction clutches, burnout when slipping, oil seals, flow, rubber-coated pistons, and a brake band. With an aggressive driving style, the gas turbine overlay, overdrive, and reverse packages quickly give up, and there is also a risk of killing the differential. It starts to make noise. Of the advantages of automatic transmission, it is worth noting its maintainability, plus intermediate repairs can be carried out without removing the Vox. The Getrag 6 DCT 250 robot is equipped with a dry clutch and is considered the most problematic transmission. In addition, it will not be easy to sell a car with a manual transmission. The most vulnerable point is the electronic control unit, which is called the TCM module in the service. It shifts gears out of time. The oil seal installed between the box and the internal combustion engine is also considered problematic. It flows after overheating, the leakage of which leads to a decrease in the service life of the clutch. A faulty clutch, in turn, accelerates the wear of the mechanical elements of the box. Another disadvantage is the small resource of the gear shifting mechanism and drive electric motors. But the mechanical part of the transmission is reliable: synchronizers, bearings, shafts, gears, and differential. Reliability of the suspension, steering, and brakes. Ford Fiesta 6 chassis is a combination of MacPherson strut and torsion beam. The suspension is well tuned, which provides a good level of comfort in handling. Things are not bad with the reliability of suspension parts, but there are still a couple of problem areas here. Most often, stabilizer consumables require attention, especially when using non-original spare parts. In pre-styling machines, the support bearings are not well protected from dirt and moisture, which is why closer to 100,000 kilometers, a crunch appears when the steering wheel is turned. If you pay attention to the problem in a timely manner, the bearings can be saved by disassembling, washing, and lubricating them. Attention should also be paid to the anthers of the drives, since if they are damaged, cracked, the hinges quickly give up. Surprisingly, the outboard bearing of the intermediate shaft of the right axle shaft also serves a little. The wear of the bearing will be indicated by a rumble and rattle, which appears only during rectilinear movement and later does not go away when the wheels are turned. Shock absorbers, ball bearings, wheel bearings, and silent blocks of levers serve an average of 130–160,000 kilometers. The rear suspension, if you do not intentionally try to kill it, does not cause trouble up to 250,000 kilometers. Later, the silent blocks of the beam may begin to delaminate. If the car is often loaded to the eyeballs, there is a risk of breakage of the rear springs. The extreme turns break off. In the steering, a rack and pinion mechanism is used, supplemented by an electromechanical amplifier with an electric motor on the steering column. The reliability of the amplifier does not raise questions, but in the event of a breakdown, you have to change the steering column, which is quite expensive. On older specimens, the amplifier torque sensor requires attention, which can often be brought back to life by soldering the cable. But the rail makes itself felt in the first 100,000 kilometers of run. The side bushings break. Another of the minuses is the tendency to corrosion of the shaft. If you do not slow down on bumps, the steering column cardan with plastic bushings of the cross quickly breaks. The brakes on the Ford Fiesta 6 are reliable. Their only drawback is the tendency to corrosion of the internal part of the mechanism, which is why it is not always possible to notice the problem in a timely manner. In the presence of brake squeaks, they may creak when the pedal is not pressed. It is necessary to carry out preventive work, cleaning and lubricating the brake mechanisms. Interior and electronics finishing materials for the interior for this class of cars are of sufficiently high quality. The front panel is made of soft plastic, high-quality fabric and upholstery. Does not raise questions and build quality. Among the shortcomings, it is worth highlighting the unreliability of the climate system lever and its limiter in the event of a malfunction of which the damper for switching the flow direction stops working. Another disadvantage is the use of fragile fastening latches. They break when dismantling the panels, especially in winter. In most cases, after the dismantling of interior parts, the interior begins to creak unpleasantly. Insignificant traces of wear on the interior trim appear closer to 100,000 km. The first, as a rule, the steering wheel, the gear shift lever, and the sidewalls of the driver's seat cushion are overwritten. For Russian-assembled cars, due to insufficient tightness of the junction of the front left pillar and the cross member, moisture can enter the passenger compartment. But the electrical equipment of the Ford Fiesta 6 is less successful. Of the main troubles, it should be noted the short service life of the stove motor brushes, which is quite problematic to get to. Often there are complaints about the short service life of lambda sensors, rear optics connectors, and a ceiling lamp. When a garland of errors appears on the instrument panel, most often it is ESP. A BS check. It is necessary to check the condition of the ABS sensors, need cleaning, and the battery, since usually they are the cause. Another nuisance is the spontaneous shutdown of the air conditioning compressor after prolonged operation. The evaporator freezes and then the protective mode is activated. The disadvantage is eliminated by recalibrating the unit that controls the operation of the compressor. It is worth recognizing that the Ford Fiesta 6 has become less reliable than the previous generation, but it would be wrong to call this car problematic. If you responsibly approach the choice of a used Ford Fiesta 6 and do not save on maintenance in the future, the machine will not bother with breakdowns for a long time. If you are the owner of this car model, please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your review that will help readers of our site when choosing a car.